Welcome back to Racing Pulse. Good to have your company on this Thursday. Don't forget the regulars are still to come. We've got Gators game plan. We've got the trial track, and of course we'll find you Thursday winners. But right now, though, it is great to welcome into the studio the new owner of RSN, the new boss, and of course he is a name that most people would be well aware of when it comes to Victorian media, and that is Craig Hutchison. A lot of questions to be asked since the announcement 7 days ago that Craig Hutchison and the Sports Entertainment Network have done a deal to buy RSN. Programming changes announced yesterday as well. I know a lot of the listeners and the viewers on .com will have questions as well, and we'll put those to Hutchie now, who is here. Hey, Craig, appreciate you coming in. Welcome to your new radio station.
Nice to see you, Michael. Nice to be here. I started my radio career at RSN in, I think, 1995, so it'll be 30 years since I've been back here, but lovely to be here, and huge respect to you and thoughts with everybody at RSN. It obviously is a peculiar time when you are in transition, so totally respect that and mindful of everybody. But it's nice to be given the opportunity to have a chat to you, and good to see you, mate.
And I'm looking forward to hearing what your vision is. We've had the ability to have a listen in a few interviews and meetings with you about what your thoughts are for the future of this station. But I've got to start with the elephant in the room. Announcement yesterday, which came out that there will be programming changes. Breakfast with Half and this show, Racing Pulse, will no longer exist in the new regime. Just talk us through what's the reasoning why you don't want Breakfast with Half and Racing Pulse on the new station.
Yeah, well, first of all, they're magnificent shows, so no disrespect at all to the quality of the programming and to the identities involved, you in particular, Michael, and also Daniel, who have been incredible servants of RSN. And I know you've got some bigger and broader opportunities in front of you in racing, which you'll consider and reflect on, but excited to see your career move in that direction and have some insight into where that could go for you. So, and same with Daniel. Daniel was a mainstay of the old SEN before my time. He's done a brilliant job with his breakfast audience, entirely connected. And, we'd obviously love to do some stuff with Daniel in the future, as we would with you. So there's nothing personal about either of those programs. In fact, here we are on racing.com. Look how far you've come with this brand and taking this into a national audience on racing.com and being watched on television around the country. It's about trying to streamline the front of the day to try and then reinvest into the afternoons and the back end of the day. We need to invest over time into the racing product. It is a racing station. It is a different audience to the one that we have developed over on SEN Track. Very different audience and very different experience. They don't really resemble each other at all after midday. And so in order to right-size the business, but also to focus our energies in not being competitive in the mornings, but being aligned and collaboratively, we can then focus on two different and racing products that suit the industry, particularly the Victorian industry. RSN obviously is... and for another 6 weeks owned by Racing Victoria and Harness Racing Victoria and Greyhound Racing Victoria. They are three tremendous codes who work very hard to serve their participants. I read some stats yesterday about Greyhound being an $880 million contributor to the Victorian economy. They're huge industries and deserve the appropriate coverage. And so our focus on that will be enhancing and resetting midday onwards. Saturday mornings will be different products. Saturdays is sacrosanct. But there's just some adjustments Monday to Friday that needed to be made because we do need to take this business into the next 100 years and make sure it's here in 100 years' time.
So it's a cost decision, essentially, is it?
It's a mix of amplification of audience, streamline of cost, but also focus and energy on making one great product in breakfast and one great product in mornings rather than splitting out those audiences as they are right now. And I know that won't be everyone's cup of tea day one, and you've got an enormous following, and so is Daniel. And the default position for many will be to have empathy for those programs. And I respect that hugely, because it's not about the quality of the shows. Gareth Hall, who has been here at RSN and has been enjoyed by RSN audiences, as you have for many years, his show will begin at 8 o'clock, Giddy Up with Gareth, through to midday. And we will invest around that visually, distribution. We want to take the shows outside of Victoria as well. We want to grow racing in Victoria outside of Victoria. The front end of that show will be very Victorian. We want to try and play our role in growing racing, chasing and pacing nationally. There are three great codes. There's so much optimism and excitement around the three industries, and I think this is an opportunity for us to put our energy behind it.
They are two different audiences, as you've said. So what do you do for the listeners, putting personal future decisions aside, and all of the people here that work at RSN? It's a period of uncertainty, which no one likes to go through. But more importantly, I think for the lifeblood of the industry, which is the listeners. A lot of feedback coming through on the SMS. They build connections and they make decisions on what shows they want to listen to. So when you're bringing Gareth across, and Gareth's a mate of mine, he's a very good performer, but they are two different shows, two different tones. What do you do and what do you say to the listeners who choose to listen to Racing Pulse compared to listening to SEN Track about what they're going to hear in the future?
I'd say give us a go. Give us an opportunity to try and win your trust and respect in the mornings from 8 o'clock through to midday. You're right, they are different shows. A lot of your audience, probably most of your audience, would not have heard much of Gareth in the last 2 or 3 years, and vice versa. So we would ask for an opportunity and a chance to win your trust. That won't be built overnight. That'll take time. But what we can commit to is being fiercely behind racing, chasing and pacing, and to try and make those three industries bigger, broader and better. There'll be room for lots of debate and discussion and meaningful conversation, but I don't apologise for being optimistic about the codes. I just think that what the three codes do every day, I think we've got an unbelievably underappreciated industry. The work that the jockeys do, the trainers, the selflessness of so many staff and strappers, these are great industries, and hopefully some external energy can be a little bit of a point of difference.
We're all in agreement there. The Racing Pulse brand's built a big brand. We had 2.4 million downloads last year. During spring, I think we were number 6 of all sports podcasts. There's a good following, a big following there, especially for segments like The Verdict, Friday Form Focus with Sharky. There's a lot of love there. Are they dead? Are they gone now?
We're working through all elements of all talent, on air, off, producers. We're trying to do it as fast as we can. It's a little bit awkward to be talking about it through that process and to be giving a running commentary, but I want to be as transparent as I can. There's some wonderfully talented people on air and off, and we want to make sure that we talk to everybody, understand their aspirations, and see where there might be some fits. It's, obviously we haven't worked together before, so this is not a case of me or our team assessing who's on air now, because it's not ours. It belongs to Racing Victoria and the owners. But we do want to have just a really fair-minded conversation with everybody, understand their aspirations. We're going to be investing in racing. I think if you look at, for all of it, or any critics, even the critics would concede that we've been investing. We want to be behind these industries and we want to invest in content. That'll take a little bit of time because of the circumstances. But this network's 100 years old. It's got an incredible history in Melbourne. It's been part of the beat of the city for a long time. It's served racing especially well. I think Saturdays is just an unbelievable part of Melbourne way of life here at RSN. And there's also a regional network that is tremendous in its distribution, frequencies and signals. Those towns are an opportunity to invest in, to put resource in and to put people in and to be a deeper part of country racing Victoria. So we intend to invest in those areas, and we want to be a regional business as much as a metro business. So
breakfast programming, obviously Half, who's been doing a brilliant job with the station here, and there's a lot of racing involved in that. Even though they can't tip a winner, it's good fun, and the punters love that. There's not that much racing in your brekkie shows. Is that going to change? Because it's a simulcast, I understand. Is that correct? What is on SEN will now be also played on RSN.
It is for the most part, but there'll also be windows to do different things into the RSN audience than the SEN audience. We can then dial up racing in different ways and methods and areas, and we have some ideas on that we won't telegraph today. But we will do more racing in breakfast and in the mornings. The breakfast show will end half an hour earlier than it currently does, so we'll be into racing mode from 8 a.m. in the mornings. Long term, I think even earlier presents an opportunity. You've got a lot of industry up at 5:30 in the morning who are at track work or who are on the road or who are travelling around the state. So edging even earlier into the morning in racing is a long-term and potentially short-term opportunity. And there'll be ways and means to, the legacy of this place is a huge responsibility ongoing. And our job is to preserve it, protect it, and enhance it. So we will absolutely be investing in the racing coverage. I think Saturdays is a clear opportunity to get back on track.
What does Saturday look like? Saturday mornings especially?
Well, Saturday mornings, there'll be split products on Saturday, so there won't be there'll be a different SEN track product on Saturday mornings, which is existing to here. We are working through that Saturday morning lineup, but we want to support it, and we'd ideally like to invest in it. I think getting back on track on Saturday afternoons is a clear opportunity, and to try and add more resource around that, and to try and enhance the coverage of Victorian racing, in particular on weekends.
So, and there's a number of SMSs asking about this.
I'm too scared to look at the SMS, Michael. I'm glad you can see it.
Specifically on the Saturday morning. A lot of people, it's must listen, that punter's out between 8 and 9. Will that remain? What happens with the tipsters who are on RSN and have been a huge legacy for a lot of listeners?
It will remain, and we'd ideally like to work and engage with as many of those favourites as we can. But we are working through that in real time. We obviously want to talk to all full-time staff first and understand their aspirations, and then simultaneously work through the part-time or contributors. But there's a lot of loved and trusted voices. I'd like to think that, I'm not presumptive to think they want to give us a go, but I'd like to think that they would. And I think what we would bring to them is additional distribution, additional audiences outside Victoria, an additional megaphone to try and drive interest and engagement around racing, and potentially nationalisation of the product. And a different way to stream it. We'll definitely invest in, on the digital side of things, clearly we're going to invest in app and in content and in streaming and in podcast and in snackable video. The RSN brand's an amazing one. So to try and make that brand live in multiple ways, as you guys have been doing it on the journey, it's amazing what you've done here, and to see this being simulcast right now is fabulous, and that will continue. There's
a big question out there about what happens to the RSN signal. RSN obviously has great coverage in country Victoria. Do you remain 927 RSN, or do you want to merge that or flip it with SEN's signal?
So that's a very fair and reasonable question. RSN 927 will remain on the 927 dial. In regional Victoria, we want to enhance things even further. I think there's some investment and infrastructure that's going to be needed to try and enhance the experience for regional Victorians. We're up for that challenge, and we want to do that. There might be a tweak or two in regional Victoria, and we might even be able to add some more stations into the RSN Victorian mix. That's another thought.
So you can guarantee coverage will be as far and wide as it is now on all Victorian races?
We'll have full Victorian coverage across the whole state, and there'll be even more ways to consume the content.
What about the future? Because it's a 6-year deal, which you've signed on with the purchase of RSN in regards to Racing Victoria. After that 6-year expires, is there a guarantee that you need to maintain racing coverage to the same level that it will be now?
There's a 6-year content agreement that comes with it, but if you look at the logistics and the practicality, we are in the racing game forever. We've made such investments as a public company into racing. We've spent significant money on establishing the SEN track network. We're embedded in the sport in many and varied ways. We're the production partner for Harness Racing Victoria, and we deliver those pitches to Sky every day. We supply other racing platforms. Our energy is in racing. We make other racing programs on the television and beyond. So we're going to be in racing long term, and this is.
So you've guaranteed the Racing Victoria and the industry, the future of audio, the sound of racing will continue no matter what.
Yes, yep, my word. We're in racing for the long haul. That's our business is sport and racing. That's our fairway. That's what we want to focus on and concentrate on, and opportunities to try and make a difference on platforms like this don't come along very often. So it's an honour, but we will give it our absolute best.
There's been a lot of discussion about RSN over a number of years and how much it costs to run. From a commercial point of view, Racing Victoria and the current owners, they couldn't make a profit out of it. Why do you think you can?
Well, it's core business for us, for starters. So for the industry themselves, if you think about what Racing Victoria, Harness Racing Victoria, Greyhound Racing Victoria, Country Racing Victoria has to do every day, they've got a 365-day-a-year product. They run mass amount of events every day. They serve and feed an extraordinary amount of people and industries. They're embedded in every country town. There's multiple tracks here in Melbourne. There's some incredible leaders now of those tracks and energy around racing. But it's running the racing, chasing and pacing industries is an enormously difficult job. And then they've got a 365-day television focus, because TV is the biggest needle mover of turnover, which the industry relies upon. I think the industries are so underappreciated in what a job they have to do every day. If you took this brief to a creative agency or to the theatre industry or to another industry and said, this is what we need to do in a day, it would overwhelm people. And we just take it for granted in racing. So understandably, commercialising a radio station isn't the most important thing to do every day for the industry that has far bigger and broader responsibilities. For us, it's what we do. We are a commercial business, that's clear. We're a public listed company. We're in the audio game. We're the number one player in sport and racing in the audio game at the moment in the country, and that could obviously change, so we don't take that for granted. And so, we're confident that we can bring partners and energy to it, and obviously try and run it within its means. And once we can do that, then we can invest heavily into distribution and into content, because ultimately it won't thrive without content investment. It won't. It needs content. I think you've been here a long time. You would be the first to concede that.
Oh, look, it's taken us 5 years to get on racing.com, longer on racing.com. It's been the bane of my existence trying to make sure that this, or trying to get to a stage like this. But look, no one knows media better than you in Victoria especially. And you're also a very smart businessman, and it's a business opportunity when you dumb it down. You love racing, but at the end of the day, you wouldn't do it unless you think you could make $1 out of it. And a lot of that's through advertising. And it's a bit of a joke. People say, oh, the station with ads. But that's a credit to you because you get the commercial partners. I can't tell you the amount of SMSs that are coming through saying, how many more ads are we going to have to listen to now on RSN? Yeah,
I've seen a little bit of that this morning. So that's fair and reasonable. There's no intent at all to increase the number of ad breaks or ads in the current model. In fact, the commitments at the moment of racing in the afternoons don't really allow for it anyway. But we don't apologise for trying to make it a partner-led product where brands can connect. I don't think that brands have fully understood the scope of audiences that racing can deliver and the range of engagement, because ultimately it's about engagement. And if you don't think that you've got an engaged radio station here, just have a look at the text machine flying next to me with passion. That this is a highly, highly engaged radio station, and that is of value to advertisers who want to tap into that emotion. And so there's value to be unlocked there, which can be then reinvested into the content of the platform.
Just on that, I'm running late for an ad. We need to take a break.
Oh, you're taking an ad.
He's the boss. He's the new head of RSN. I'll get to a few more SMSs, and we'll have Hutchie back after this. Welcome back to racing.com and also RSN, and this is Racing Pulse, and we have the new owner of RSN, Craig Hutchison, live in the studio talking about what the future sound of Victorian racing will be like. A lot of correspondence. We love that as always. 0416 90 50 52 as Hutchie's finding out we have strong and direct feedback here on RSN in all topics. A couple of SMSs have come through. We've got a very long listening, loyal audience in Tasmania. Will it still continue to be broadcast in Tasmania?
Absolutely hope so. Yeah, we've yet to understand that distribution agreement and need to work through that. But yeah, those stations in Tasmania, which I think are Sky owned in Hobart and Launceston and beyond, fabulous signals and a great partner. We've got a Tasmanian business and Tasmanian-based team, so we would be super excited to distribute through Tasmania if given that opportunity, and we hope that'll be the case.
Saturday afternoon coverage and after 12 o'clock coverage, is it going to remain similar to what RSN's coverage of racing is, or will you change that?
It'll remain similar from day one because we've got a bit to learn and understand. We're not naive to think that we know better. We need to listen and understand what the plan is now, but I would think we would be able to add resource to it and enhance it pretty quickly.
In what areas?
I think on venue in particular, particularly in Victoria, there's obviously a relationship with racing.com to receive content on a Saturday, which is great, and racing.com do a magnificent job on Saturdays. It's a great product, but we'd also like to have some of our own RSN people on venue and to drive a little bit of energy in between races on that. You'll see more Victorian coverage in between races. I think it'll be, it's just such an institution, Saturday afternoon racing on RSN. So, we want to try and baby steps to enhance the content, but we certainly want to support it and to put some more resource around, particularly on the on-course offering.
And what coverage have you committed to? Is it, if punters want to bet interstate, what interstate races will be broadcast on a Saturday during the week?
Yeah, so that's the opportunity. We'll work through the status quo and understand how a little bit more or a little bit less interstate racing could be added. I think we've learned things in the last 3 days that we weren't familiar with. So, but our focus is going to be Victoria. That's the most important part, and then we'll enhance and support that with additional coverage from interstate throughout the course of the day.
And
Big day. It'll be a big day Saturdays here.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, sport is your core. That's what SEN's been built on. Will there be more sport integrated into RSN after breakfast, after 12 o'clock?
There'll be some, for sure. And, we'll have a 2-hour sport breakfast program, and there'll be opportunities for a little bit. It's obviously a way to grow racing is via sport. There are natural audience overlaps. But I would say our core focus is going to be on the racing product.
What about the staff? And this is it's a raw conversation to have because people standing in this room with you have an uncertain future, and a lot of people across the entire station now faces uncertainty. So what's the situation re staff? How many will lose jobs?
So I really respect that because it is a difficult time in the transition. We've been through this once before, 6 or 7 years ago, and personally I've been on either end of these uncertain periods of time. So I have just huge respect and empathy for everyone going through it. All I can commit to is we will talk to everybody, we'll understand their aspirations, what their passions are, where they want to take their career, and we'll look for where there are a fit for those that want to join or those that don't. And whether that be in full-time roles or part-time roles or in other future guises, we'll work through on a case-by-case basis. But we'll do that as quickly as we can because no one likes uncertainty. And I do respect that there's been some uncertainty around the platform long before this was announced. So our commitment is to try and do that as quick as we can.
Because it's not the first time you've tried to buy RSN. You've had a long-term want to acquire the station, haven't you?
I think about 5 or 6 years ago when we hadn't made a move into SEN track, there was a big aspiration to do it, and we put ourselves forward. And along the journey, we've always been open-minded to it and asked the question. It wouldn't have ever worked unless there was an aligned industry that wanted us to play a role in taking it forward. And this is really a partnership. Like it's certainly something that we've invested in as a public company to own, but it's a partnership with the codes. That's the lens we're taking on it. We want to be a great partner of all industries. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be meaningful debate and conversation along the way about all industries, but we want to be a partner to those industries and to amplify content as best we can and to celebrate this industry. Like I think a lot of media assets in racing are owned by industry in Australia, and that is a good thing, but it also can be a challenge at times. There hasn't been a lot of or enough external energy, maybe outside of, say, Seven Racing on a Saturday and one or two others. Our energy is going to be in this sport, and we value it, we respect it. We're all no different than anyone else. We own shares in horses. We go to the races. We enjoy it. We have a Palmer with our mates and watch the races on a Saturday. We've got a lot of passionate racing people, women and men in our business, and we'll bring that energy to this to RSN.
And SEN has a number of people that do great jobs on air, but they're also highly controversial in some of their comments. You've got Kane Corns in football, who calls it as it does. You've got others that work in the racing side of things on SEN track as well. As you mentioned, now not owned by the racing industry. Does that give you carte blanche as to have a crack at Racing Victoria if you're not happy with things? Whereas we give balanced debate, balanced discussion, but I think the charter overall is to try and promote racing and build it up. Is there a situation where the racing industry might find itself on the end of that from SEN moving forward?
I think it'll be an even deeper obligation to be fair-minded in debate and discussion would be how I would describe it. But I just guess I come from a position of positivity anyway in racing. So we're not here to roll in 6 weeks and then all of a sudden we're hypercritical shock jocks day one. That's not what you're going to hear. It'll be we want to be a part of the industry. We want to try and help grow it and stabilise it. It's a pretty emotive industry, as you know, and it's a highly political industry. So everyone has their different views. Huge respect for everyone who has a different view. But our starting position is one of positivity around the industry. Will you continue to run SEN track in the mornings, or the mornings programs will be on RSN? They'll be simulcast in the morning. So the Giddy Up with Gareth product will go to the 22 SEN track stations and to the give or take 12 stations around regional Victoria, about 34 station distribution, 2 apps. I would like to think there'll be DAB coverage interstate from day one, racing.com Thursdays and Fridays. video streaming. We're streaming Giddy Up now, Monday to Friday, visually on the SEN app. That will move to the RSN app as well. The RSN app will get significant overhaul and investment at day one. We're here to try and distribute content a little bit differently and to hopefully be part of the conversation of a great industry. You know
media better than anyone. Is there any concern that there is now going to be a lack of choice when it comes to racing media and also sports programs in the morning? There was an option for listeners out there prior to this, but if SEN's breakfast show is going to be simulcast on RSN, if Gareth's SEN program is going to be now simulcast and broadcast on RSN, for the fans out there, the viewers, the listeners that like to make a choice, there doesn't seem to be much of a choice now.
Yeah, I would argue that there's still plenty of choice, and in many countries in the world, there's no choice. So it is not an easy thing to do to run racing and sports platforms. It's not easy. So I feel that our industry is in good shape that we can continue to preserve RSN and other platforms. In the Sky Sport Radio still have a product that's very popular in Sydney and Brisbane, and it's available online for those that want to choose that experience. At the SEN world, we have a different breakfast show in every city of the country, so you can choose from 6 different breakfast shows in the morning in sport if you choose. I listened to 2 of them, 2 different shows on the way in here this morning. There's products on the FM stations. I think as an industry in Australia, where and television's the same. Ironically, in television now, we're hearing, there's too much choice. We can't watch all the shows on a Monday night, and what are we going to watch? And I think choice is wonderful. You need as much choice as you can. Hopefully, to those listening, give us a chance, give us an opportunity. But if you don't, there'll be other opportunities to spread your consumption, and then hopefully we'll get you back at some stage along the way.
So just to wrap up, Breakfast with the Half finishes up. Racing Pulse finishes up. Last show end of August. Simulcast breakfast shows from SEN on RSN. Gareth's Giddy Up with Gareth. Simulcast on RSN moving forward. To be determined what afternoon coverages look like.
Yes, there'll be more conversation and announcements around the afternoon and evening coverages over the next 2 or 3 weeks. We want to be respectful to all the people involved in that and work through those before we make those announcements.
And no final calls on talent and contributors at this stage, especially in regards to tipsters. And
working through all of them with huge respect to all of them.
I'll let you have final word. What would you like to say to the racing.com audience and the RSN audience?
Just thank you for the opportunity to talk this morning, Michael. I know it's an abnormal circumstance, so
it's
huge respect for you. Difficult job that, so huge respect for you and what you've achieved here. And I know and I'm familiar with the bigger opportunity in front of you, so that's an awesome thing for you, and I'm wrapped for you. And we would like to do things together. And to the audience who are listening, we'll just ask for an opportunity to prove ourselves. It'll take time, but our heart's in the right place. We want to get behind racing and try and make it great.
Have you got a tip? You used to love Dapto Dogs when you worked at Seven.
Dapto Dogs on Thursday nights. It's going to close next year in a year, which is very sad. Is it next June, I think? Yeah. No tips. No, I haven't had a look. I've got a rule on horse ownership, though, Michael. How many horses are you in?
Well, sadly, we just lost Warmonger. So
what a great horse that was.
Only one.
Run a Melbourne Cup, did it run?
Caulfield Cup. Didn't get to the Melbourne Cup. But anyway.
How many are you in now?
No, just one.
That you want to admit to?
One. Or which one? Maybe 1.5. But anyway.
I have a simple rule with horse ownership. That is, if someone that I'm friends with who asks me, or a client of ours, I would say yes straight away, but what's the least amount I could own? Because, like many horse racing owners, it's about the friendship. It's about the WhatsApp group on a Saturday morning. It's about the banter. So having 1 or 2% of a horse is a tremendous opportunity and privilege. I've had a lot of slow ones and had a very, very small share of a lot of slow ones. Noble As is one at the moment that I've got a tiny share in, which shows a bit of promise. It's won a couple of great races recently, so hopefully we can go forward with that.
Well, good luck with your ownership, and more importantly, good luck with RSN. Look after it. We love it. We love the listeners. It's very important to Victorian racing. It is the soundtrack of Victorian racing, and as you say, it's been here for 100 years. We want to see it flourish in the future, even if we're not directly as involved as what we have been in the past.
Thanks, Michael, and huge respect for you this morning.